What's up, guys? Welcome back to Michigan Muckraker. My name's Michelle. Today is the 6th of February, 2024. And boy, do I have a lot of news, Michigan news in particular, to share with you today. So I recently went down a rabbit hole on Pete Hoekstra because of this whole Michigan GOP fiasco that's happening here in Michigan, but not just Michigan. To be fair, this is a GOP concern all across the United States, and I'm going to get into why. But when I went down that rabbit hole on Hoekstra, I found things that I really didn't like, very unpatriotic, unconstitutional acts, and some actually related to the biopharmaceutical industry back in 2006 that paved the way for Operation Warp Speed. So, a lot of crazy information that I discovered. Also, torture. He justifies torture. I have a clip to show you. And, it wasn't unheard of back then, but it's never justifiable. Torture is never a justified act. And so it's a bad take, way worse than a bad take. But we're going to get into that. And then Goshen, I have a few updates on Goshen that you haven't heard in the news yet. Also, MESA, which is the Mecosta Environment and Security Alliance, unfortunately was caught copywriting EDRA. So I have some facts on that, and that's a breaking story. So it's unfortunate when they're supposed to be fighting Goshen, MESA, but they refuse to acknowledge or give credit where credit is due when it comes to EDRA, because there is, just like in the Michigan GOP, this split between grassroots, populist movements, real grassroots, and then this type of neoconservative, more deep state aligned rhino group. But MESA is involved with Hoekstra, or rather, Hoekstra is involved with MESA. And so, again, Goshen updates. I got that coming to you. Hardy Dam Consumers is talking about all the dams, not just Hardy, but Hardy is one of the 13 in there, and the largest of all the dams that are being sold. So it's official now. I'm sure you've seen that on the news. But one of the things that Consumers Energy continues to tout is that they don't want to raise rates to save the dams. And so I want to get into a little bit of information on consumers raising rates for solar and wind back in 2011, and raising rates other times, 15 times throughout the 10 years or something. I have an article on it thanks to Michigan Capital Confidential and Mackinac.org also. So both, I think, libertarian sites, and they've been keeping their eye out on consumers. And yeah, they're corrupt, of course, as a monopoly can be. So I'm going to get into that information and a few little tidbits here and there. I think I have one article on Biden and how the people here in Michigan that are pro-Palestinian are saying vote of no confidence or something like that. So I got the articles. Let's jump in. Before we get into all that information, though, I want to give a shout out to the Newaygo County Grassroots, who invited me, not this last weekend, but the weekend before, to a informational meeting at Jimmy's Roadhouse. So thank you, Jimmy, as well, over in Newaygo, that talked about the Axe Michigan Tax Initiative that is trying to put eliminating property tax on the ballot. So thank you, Newaygo Grassroots. You're doing excellent work. There are several battlefronts, because this is a war of the ages, right? And this is one that I think we should put our full weight into. I talk about land grabs all the time on this channel. And Maui, California, East Palestine, Ohio, all land grabs by our government. But they continue to do that all the time with property tax, right? So if you can't pay your property tax, they steal your land, even if it's been paid for and been in your family for hundreds of years. It's wrong, it's unconstitutional, and we can really help people, and especially farmers. We know there's a war on farmers, and it's the farmers that get hit the hardest because of all these regulations that are coming down. They can't make any profit. They have to pay property tax they can't pay. The government comes and steals it, all by design. It's not an accident. But if we could get this on the ballot and eliminate property tax, we could help our farmers keep their land. We can help everybody keep their land. So it's everybody should be interested. It doesn't matter what political affiliation. You should want to be able to keep your land because private property is the number one thing we need to protect because you don't have rights without private property. If you live in affordable housing, it's government housing, it's not private property. You don't get gun rights, you don't get rights to privacy, none of that. So private property is extremely important. I want to thank Carl Wagner. So let's share this tab. Carl Wagner is the woman that has initiated this movement. Let's see, you go to About Us. And this is acts without the E. They had to drop the E for political reasons, wordage, which, by the way, let me talk about the founder really quick. So Carla Wagner is the executive director, and she's a small business owner and real estate agent who holds a residential builder's license. So she knows about taxes, being the real estate agent. And she and the Newego Grassroots allowed me to, of course, it's a public area, but I recorded it. So if you want to get all of the information, tons of excellent information, please consider going and watching. It doesn't even have to be on my channel. If you want to watch, Patriot Paul is a fellow muckraker, a fellow patriot, and grassroots journalist. So he's recording a lot of the political things that are going on. So give him some love over here. He's got 41. Let's bump that up. He's doing good stuff. So he also recorded the meeting and highly recommend. Please, I know it's a couple hours or an hour and 51 minutes, but it's very important information. She knows what she's talking about. We do not need property tax. Of course, our government doesn't need any more money from us. So check that out. If you want to help, you can go to this site, go to Get Involved, axmichigantax.org, and you can volunteer to gather signatures, organize events, or door knock. Now, right now, there's some issues with wording that they're not able to start getting signatures, even though they have 180 days to do so, and it started January 1st. So already they're being messed with. They have lawyers. This is a battlefield, and this is one of the battlefronts we should throw ourselves into. In my opinion, I'm for private property. So check that out. Volunteer if you have the time, donate if you have the money, and vote when it gets on the ballot, because we are going to get it on the ballot. Now, talking about taxes, I'm not going to get into the article, but should Michigan change the gas tax for a road usage charge? Drivers asked to weigh in. I am anti-tax. So no road use tax, because who does that hurt? People in rural areas, because they have to drive the farthest to go to work by choice. But now you're going to tax them more because they live out in the country. So I, of course, am not for any tax, gas tax or road usage tax. So if you want to weigh in, hopefully you still can. This came out January 31st. I will have this and every other thing that I talk about in my Substack article. So please sign up for that newsletter if you're interested in getting all those references and then some, because I can't get to everything in these 2-hour videos. So I add a lot. Now, getting into Pete Hoekstra. This is what started me down the rabbit hole. This information came out February 1st. Disputed Trump-backed Michigan GOP chairman invested thousands in company disposing aborted fetal remains. Now, Planned Parenthood does a lot of shady, awful, evil things. And one of those things is they dispose of aborted babies by just giving them to these companies like Stericycle, and I think burn them. It's awful. So there's no sanctity, no care for human life. And I'm not for that. I am very pro-human. I love humanity. I think that we can do so much better than what we're doing. So Pete Hoekstra is known to be pro-life. So why is he investing $50,000 in a company called Stericycle, who disposes of aborted fetuses. According to the 2017 disclosure filed with the U.S. Office of Government Ethics, former Rep. Pete Hoekstra invested as much as $50,000 in Stericycle. By the way, thank you guys for joining me. I very much appreciate it. Thank you to everybody that I meet, by the way, as well. When I go to events like Jimmy's Roadhouse or the township meetings, I always meet people. Everybody's always so friendly and loving, and I'm so grateful to each of you. So thank you. I am so glad that there are people that want to know what's going on. They're not always around me in the real world, physical world, but thankfully I have y'all, and every now and then I get to see you out in public. So I just wanted to say thank you for that. Zoltan the man, let's go. I'm glad you're here. The group had previously reported to cut ties with hundreds of abortion clinics, reiterating its policy against hauling aborted fetal waste, but continued servicing Planned Parenthood facilities while requiring them to certify no such remains were included in the refuge it transports. So yeah, they just get around things by not reporting, doing illegal activities, but no one's held accountable. The same old game, right? With these huge corporations like Planned Parenthood and politicians. Good morning, Jessica. Thank you for joining me. Hopefully, I get to share some new information on Pete Hoekstra with you guys, which, you know, I never really thought of it as neocon versus populist, although I should have, until I watched this guy Styx Hexenhammer, which I'm going to show you in a little while, that it's an outsider, right? Not from Michigan, but looking at what's going on in the GOP all around the United States and in particular Michigan. He's the one that called it as it is. Neocons, neoconservatives, which Pete Hoekstra falls under, establishment to the core, and then you have a real populist movement, which is what Christina Caramo is representing. So Pete Hoekstra needs to be looked at. When reached for comment, Hoekstra referenced his record as a staunchly pro-life member of the House. I am opposed to abortion. I believe it was scored at 100% pro-life voting record. I was scored at 100% pro-life voting record for most of it, not all of my 18 years in Congress. That's what Hoekstra told Fox News Digital. My brokerage account managed by an outside investment advisor does not hold any Stericycle stock, he added, but did not respond to questions concerning whether he agreed that the company's past transportation of fetal remains. Good morning, The Long Report. It's nice to see you here. Hoekstra served nearly 2 decades in Congress. I'm pretty sure that yeah, you are a part of MESA, right? The Long Report, if you want to, if you want to admit that. Hoekstra served nearly 2 decades in Congress before being appointed as U.S. Ambassador to the Netherlands by former President Donald Trump, where he served from 2018 to 2021. He was elected as the new chair of the Michigan Republican Party on January 20th by a faction by a faction of state party committee members that voted to oust Chairman Christina Caramo earlier this month. Of course, that's contested, to be determined. So this real quick, Stericycle protest educates community. This was back in 2019. More than 40 people participated in the national Stericycle protest hosted locally by Grand Rapids Right to Life. Stericycle is the nation's largest medical waste hauler. Despite having an official company policy against transporting fetal remains, Stericycle still holds contracts with many abortion clinics. They are the service provider nationally for Planned Parenthood and locally for Heritage Clinic for Women. Sadly, the body of an aborted baby is considered medical waste and treated as such by the abortion industry. Human rights and dignity are not afforded the child killed by abortion. Several states have charged Stericycle with disposing of fetal remains in violation of state regulations. Awful, evil, it's not pro-human. Grand Rapids Right to Life created signs that said babies deserve a proper burial. So as you could see, it's been a long time where the Stericycle has been under fire for its terrible practices and not being pro-life. And yet you have people that run on the pro-life ticket, and they are funding this company. So that was the first thing that got me going down this rabbit hole. I'm not going to get into this article. This is out of Utah, but the same thing. They're known for their bad practices, and the people don't want them in their area. This company. So it was closed after 33 years, and that was back in 2022. So, all right. So Patriot Act. We all know that Pete Hoekstra was for the Patriot Act, and in fact, it was 2005 when he came out with this release that says a Hoekstra statement on House Intelligent Patriot Act reauthorization markup. So it was well after the initial Patriot Act, and he wanted to keep it because why? He wants to keep power. What does the Patriot Act do? It allows January 6ers to be held indefinitely without a trial. That's what it does. Several other things as well. The Patriot Act increases the government's power to spy in 4 areas. It records searches. It expands the government's ability to look at records on an individual's activity being held by a third party. Secret searches. It expands the government's ability to search private property without notice to the owner. So it got rid of warrants. Intelligence searches. It expands a narrow exception to the Fourth Amendment that had been created for the collection of foreign intelligence information. Trap and trace searches. It expands another Fourth Amendment exception for spying that collects addressing information about the origin and destination of communications as opposed to the content. The first, expand access to personal records held by third parties. One of the most significant provisions of the Patriot Act makes it far easier for the authorities to gain access to records of citizens' activities being held by a third party. At a time when computerization is leading to the creation of more and more search records, Section 215 of the Patriot Act allows the FBI to force anyone at all, including doctors, libraries, bookstores, universities, and internet service providers, to turn over records on their clients or customers. Unchecked power. The result is unchecked, and this is 2001. So this information is out there. Pete Hoekstra was involved in the Intelligence Committee back when Bush era was going on, and he was for the Patriot Act, even though this is all known. Everybody should know in 2001 or by 2005, especially if you're in intelligence, that this allows for an overreach of government. It's too much power for the government. It's the most unpatriotic thing that you can put into place. And yet you want to run the patriots of the GOP. And he talks about in one of these articles, I got to show you, that we need unity now. Like he's saying, I am it and we need unity. It's not going to work, buddy, because you're not a populist. You are not a patriot. You're a rhino. Unchecked power. The result is unchecked government power to rife through individuals' financial records, medical histories, internet usage, bookstore purchases, library usage, travel patterns, or any other activity that leaves a record. We got a lot going on in the chat. I love it. So, Jessica, absolutely disgusting using body parts for profit. I know. They sell it to science, too. I want to do a deep dive into all of that. It will be a Rumble exclusive, though, because YouTube is shadow banned me. I'm growing very, very slowly, and a lot of my videos I don't think people are seeing. I'm 99% sure that I'm being shadow banned because I talk about New World Order, land grabs, government overreach, and so on and so forth. So thank you guys. When you share, that is the only way I'm being seen. So thank you every time you share. Tanya says, good morning. Christ, but I think maybe Chris, because I think Chris is in here. Brandy Sweet says, Kristen Megan Kelly shared some info on Hoekstra too. I believe I have that same info to share. And good morning, Cheyenne, from Jessica. Okay, so the government no longer has to show evidence that the subjects of search orders are an agent of a foreign power, a requirement that previously protected Americans against abuse of this authority. The FBI does not even have to show a reasonable suspicion that the records are related to criminal activity, much less the requirement for probable cause that is listed in the Fourth Amendment to the Constitution. All the government needs to do is make the broad assertion that the request is related to an ongoing terrorism or foreign intelligence investigation, which they can lie. We saw that, right? That's another thing. Pete Hoekstra, there's weapons of mass destruction. We have to go to Iraq. What? We all know now that that was a lie. He's a war hawk as well. So, if that's really who you think is a patriot on the split, I'm sorry. I just don't agree. I don't agree. Judicial oversight of these new powers is essentially non-existent. The government must only certify to a judge, and we know the judges have been captured, not all of them, but enough to make it where you can't trust the court system, with no need for evidence or proof that such a search meets the statute's broad criteria. And the judge does not even have the authority to reject the application. Surveillance orders can be based in part on a person's First Amendment activities, such as the books they read, the websites they visit, or a letter to the editor they have written. A person or organization forced to turn over records is prohibited from disclosing the search to anyone. As a result of this gag order, the subjects of surveillance never even find out that their personal records have been examined by the government. Again, this is how January 6th happens. This is how the fake FBI entrapment case against Whitmer happens. And this is a war on the people by our government. This is fifth-generation warfare. That undercuts an important check and balance of this power, the ability of individuals to challenge illegitimate searches. And again, I'll leave all this. If you want to read more, you can. Hoekstra statement on House Intelligent Patriot Act reauthorization markup. U.S. Rep. Pete Hoekstra, chairman of the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, issued his opening statement after the committee passed H.R. 3199, the USA Patriot and Terrorism Prevention Reauthorization Act. The bill was approved by voice vote and, as amended, goes to the House for consideration. Good morning. Today, the committee will consider this bill to reauthorize 16 expiring provisions of the USA Patriot Act. 10 of those provisions dealing with intelligence and intelligence-related matters, primarily the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, are within the jurisdiction of this committee. The bill also reauthorizes 2 provisions of the Intelligence Reform and Terrorism Prevention Act, one of which is the jurisdiction of the committee. So, by the way, he formed a committee with Molinar on a Chinese foreign committee. I should have looked it up, but to go against Goshen. And when he was just going against Goshen, I thought maybe you're trying to just do the right thing. But when he made that committee, I'm thinking, yeah, he wants more power, because that's what committees are. We don't need more bureaucracy. We don't need more committees. We need to stop Goshen without forming more and more government. The record in support of reauthorizing the Patriot Act is clear and convincing. As President Bush said earlier this week, the terrorist threats against us will not expire, and neither should the protections of the Patriot Act. Last week's terrorist attacks in London reminded us that we cannot be complacent to let our guard down to the threat of terrorism, right? Using fear. Republicans and Democrats, and pretty much the uniparty, the power party that wants to maintain the power that they've stolen and keep us from having the rights that were granted by God. So they really can't do this, but they're doing it, and we're allowing it. But yeah, he wants to keep these powers, and he's using fear. Be afraid. We need them. Same thing that happened the last 3 years with COVID. The rapid progress being made in the British investigation of those bombings demonstrates how critical these kinds of authorities and tools are to investigate and respond to terrorist attacks. Well, now guess what? Domestic terrorism is in. Going against the people that just want our government to stop being tyrannical, that is the new domestic terrorist. So now it's going to be turned against us. As our committee hearings on the Patriot Act amply demonstrated, it has provided vital but carefully tailored authorities to fight terrorists and spies. It has also brought changes the Deputy Attorney General described as earth-shattering and bringing down the wall between law enforcement and intelligence agencies. Oh, this is great. This is exactly what we want. not. What the Patriot Act has not been, either an intent or practice, is a license for the government to invade the privacy of ordinary citizens or to violate civil liberties. The Department of Justice Inspector General determined earlier this year that there had been no complaints alleging misconduct by Justice Department employees relating to use of a provision in the Patriot Act, nor did our hearings in the committee determine that there had been any actual cases of abuse. Right. I investigated myself and I found I'm not guilty. Good morning, Tanya, and I've been doing well. I hear some good news about stopping Goshen, so I hope you are doing well yourself. And Jessica, calling out the bad guys, keep up the good work. Thank you. Thank you. I'm just going to give you the information. You could think how you want to think, and I do give my opinion here, but I always give the facts and why my opinion was formed in the way that it was. The bill before us today contains sensible changes to clear up those ambiguities, once and for all, without compromising our investigators. I appreciate the opportunity to work constructively with the ranking members on this issue, and the bill addresses a number of the comments raised by the minority. The bill includes 4 key reforms to the Patriot Act, which allows a judge to authorize access to certain business records. Oh, more power. The reauthorization wasn't just, let's keep these, but let's add some more. The bill establishes a relevant standard to more clearly ensure that orders are relevant to a terrorism or espionage investigation. Once again, who defines terrorism? The government. It also clarifies that judges may modify Section 215 orders and that recipients may obtain legal advice and challenge the order in court. Finally, it establishes a panel of judges to consider such challenges and sets forth specific procedures to do so. The legislation also contains provisions requested by the admin to extend the maximum duration of certain FISA orders relating to non-U.S. persons for up to a year. This portion of the bill incorporates comments from the minority and allows judges to modify the duration of the extension. Finally, I want to point out that the bill does not expand the authorities of the Patriot Act in any way. Specifically, for example, it does not include provisions requested by the admin to expand the administrative subpoena authority of the FBI. The existing authorities have been effective, reasonable, and responsible. We don't need any more power. We've realized we have enough with what we got, so we won't fight for it. And our efforts to the legislative process should focus on renewing those proven authorities. I appreciate the efforts of Chairman Sensenbrenner and yada yada. So, not getting into this article, but just came out, doctor who helped a wounded Ashley Babbitt, the only real victim that got shot by the Capitol Police, on January 6th, sentenced to probation. So just being there and trying to help this individual getting sentenced to probation. Now, we should know that people that were just there, they didn't even go into the Capitol. They're being rounded up as well and tried. And this is all because the Patriot Act is being used against true patriots. Now, this is Hoekstra justifying torture, which again, torture can't be justified. So it just shows you the kind of person he really is. He likes power. That's the kind of person he is.
What happened here was that we asked the agency to go take steps and put in place programs that were designed to catch the bastards who killed 3,000 of us on 9/11 and to make sure it didn't happen again. And that's exactly what they did. I think that what needed to be done was done. I think we were perfectly justified in doing it, and I'd do it again in a minute.
He'd do it again in a minute.
Well, he is, the éminence grise. He was the power behind the throne, and he was responsible for ordering all this. Now, he talked about the dark side, right? And waterboarding, he described as a dunk in water. He was running this thing and telling George Tenet, the head of the CIA, what to do. I don't know if he checked with you, Congressman Hoekstra. He really should have, but I'm amazed that you were either unaware of these things or whether you condone them.
I think I've been very open.
So you condone them. My God.
Like I explained this to you.
members of Congress, Republicans and Democrats, leadership on both sides, gang of eight,
torture was okay?
thought that the enhanced interrogation techniques were
torture.
appropriate.
Let's not use these sobriquets.
No,
Enhanced-
the
this is
legal, the
torture.
Justice Department did not characterize these as legal.
Alberto
They
Gonzalez.
characterize them as legal. But, you know, to say that you're aghast that we heard, no.
I'm aghast that you were briefed on it. I thought,
No,
you're supposed to be overseeing these things. You should stop these things.
That's why we were briefed on these things.
You were co-opted. That's
No,
what
we
you
were
were.
not.
Yes, you
Republicans
were.
and Democrats were fully briefed on these programs, and we agreed with them, and we had the
you were
opportunity.
lied to, and you're ashamed that to admit that you were lied to.
I'm not ashamed that I was lied to. I'm admitting that these programs were briefed to us. I've talked with my staff and going back and said, you know, when after this revelation came out, it's kind of like, how much of this program, how much of what is in this Dianne Feinstein report, this partisan report, Democrat report, how much did we know? 90 to 95%.
Oh my God, what a terrible admission. Aren't you ashamed?
No, I'm not ashamed.
My God.
I reached a different conclusion.
You were chair of the Intelligence Committee in the House, and you condoned it.
Your colleagues
These are
in the
not
CIA.
my colleagues. These are thugs
These are
hired
people
by
you walked
Dick
away
Cheney.
from.
They're thugs.
These are heroes
Okay,
for America who
Gentlemen,
They're
we're gonna,
thugs headed by Dick Cheney.
gentlemen, we're gonna have to,
to.
we're gonna have to hold it right there. Thanks so much for you for joining.
I thought when I found that clip, it tells a lot. So the guy on the right thought you didn't know that they were torturing people, and which you are supposed to be, you know, overseeing them and keeping them in control, and you didn't even know. But now he's saying that, but Hoekstra was like, no, we knew, and we approve. So he approves of waterboarding. He approves of torture, and we should all know once again, torture. It doesn't get you the information you want. If I was tortured, I'd probably confess, you know, things that I didn't do because I'm being tortured. So torture is never justifiable, period. And he just justified it. Another reason why I don't like Hoekstra. Now I'm going to get into the comments really quick because we have Marjorie Steele in here, who is the founder of EDRA. And the long report is involved in MESA and the new website that they've updated their website, which it needed an update. But again, they have stolen some of the work from EDRA without giving them credit because they don't want to give credit to EDRA for anything. And so if they would have just given credit, then none of this would have happened. But I have the proof coming up that Google has confirmed that there was copyright issues and has taken down some of the content over on MESA's page. So that's what's going on in the chat right now. And I appreciate everyone for being here. Let's see what we got. First, we have, oh, here we go. We'll go back up a little farther. The long report. On a positive note, it's great to see Hoekstra supports the No Goshen movement and the grassroots efforts. Great American that he is. He will be great for the GOP. So, of course, this individual has been working with Hoekstra, with MESA for a while, and has helped his career. So it's understandable that he's Team Hoekstra. Brandy Sweet, he actually doesn't support grassroots. Look up Kristen Megan Kelly. Marjorie Steele, support equals plagiarize. And there's more to someone than this simply being against Goshen. Exactly. Now, one of the key issues that I have with MESA is that they aren't going after the root of the root like EDRA is. And that's one of the reasons why I support EDRA so much, is because they understand that it's the Economic Development Corporation itself that Whitmer is working with and uses to bully economic development on us, and uses our money to give land to other entities like Goshen. So I think that a problem, there is a big problem with only going shallow. I feel like you aren't going after the true root of the issue because you like the power being there. You just want to be in control of that power. You want the Economic Development Corporation to run this state, really. but you want to be the Republicans to be in there rather than the Democrats. And I'm not for any of it. And so that's why I have supported EDRA a lot with showcasing their articles, because I know that the economic development corporations are the problem, because that's how they're implementing UN Agenda 2030. So I want to get to the root of the root. And Hoekstra and those individuals don't, because they don't want to bite the hand that will feed them potentially. Tanya, Michelle, I'm good. Miss seeing you at the meetings. I know you're busy. I miss being there. I need to get to one of those meetings. I'd like to talk to the board and see, you know, how they think things are going, if they're willing to talk to me. I do want to know, you know, how are things going with Goshen on their end. I have an article out of Big Rapids Pioneer to share with you guys on some hiccups with the contract with Goshen. So there's some good news on that front. And thank you. I do miss seeing you guys too. There's a lot of great people that are fighting Goshen and that are fighting for the state of Michigan and the United States. So I am very well aware of that. And this split between the GOP people is very unfortunate. And the split between EDRA and MESA is unnecessary and unfortunate. But again, when you have ulterior motives and you're just kind of using Goshen to promote your political agendas, you know, that it makes it a split, because there's populists and there's neocons. Nothing respectful about your behavior. No, Marjorie, nothing was plagiarized. Thank you. Have a blessed day. So unfortunately, the Google legal team has said that there was plagiarization. Hopefully I said that right. And again, I'm going to get into this. So there's a lot going on. Zoltan the man, you're crushing. Yeah, I'm going to get into this. I appreciate the conversation that's going on. And, you know, there's a lot of strife in this world. I always go back to love your neighbor, and sharing information and allowing your neighbor to make informed choices is what my channel is all about. And so, yeah, I'm going to get back in. I have a lot to share, so I'm sorry about the chat. I'm not trying to like bypass anything, but I do have a lot more to get into, and only small amount of time. It seems small. So Hoekstra lies about his lies. This is only 3 minutes. We're going to get into this. Back when he was the ambassador for the Netherlands.
Thing one tonight, one hallmark of the Trump era isn't just lies. It's obvious, egregious, in-your-face lies, ones that are then later lied about to cover up the first lie.
By the way, I don't like MSNBC, okay? I don't like any legacy media. But this is a very quick 3-minute video that does talk about how, and hopefully will show how he got caught in his lie.
The man President Trump named as U.S. Ambassador to Netherlands, the former Michigan Congressman Pete Hoekstra, falls right in line with that ethos. The Dutch were already unhappy with the choice because of Hoekstra's history of Islamophobia. And here he is in an interview with a Dutch journalist just 10 days after he was sworn in as ambassador.
Speaking of threat, at one point you mentioned in a debate that there are no-go zones in the Netherlands and that cars and politicians are being set on fire in the Netherlands.
I didn't say that. That is actually an incorrect statement. Yeah, we would call it fake news.
Is that
I
fake
never
news?
said that.
Because it's what you really said.
No, it's not what I said.
Now, can you imagine if, I don't know, let's say the Dutch journalist came prepared with video of the ambassador saying those words? That's thing 2 in 60 seconds.
Wow.
So a funny thing happened when the U.S. ambassador to the Netherlands, Pete Hoekstra, denied saying a thing that he actually said.
It's not what I said.
The Islamic movement has now gotten to a point where they have put Europe into chaos. Chaos in the Netherlands. There are cars being burned. There are politicians that are being burned. And yes, there are no-go zones in the Netherlands.
You call it fake news. Obviously,
I didn't call that fake news. I didn't use the word this today.
no?
No.
Okay.
I don't think I did.
Okay, I think.
Do you see that?
Yeah.
You see the moment where the brain of this poor Dutch journalist is broken by the sheer insane bad faith of the Trumpian method? I didn't call that fake news.
Trumpian method. Come on. Like, this is the thing that drives me crazy. Not everything is Trump's fault. Like, Trump derangement syndrome goes both ways. Everything is his fault. Nothing is his fault. I don't subscribe to either one of those things, okay? When he's wrong, I'm going to point out he's wrong. When he does things that I agree with, I will point those out as well. He is responsible for his own lies. Hoekstra is.
He just called it fake news. A reminder of what Hoekstra said just moments before.
And that cars and politicians are being set on fire in the Netherlands.
I didn't say that. That is actually an incorrect statement. Yeah, we would call it fake news.
That created headlines in the Netherlands like this one. New Trump ambassador in the Netherlands, Pete Hoekstra, lies about his own lies. Hoekstra has since apologized in a statement for certain remarks he made in 2015 and for the exchange with the Dutch journalist. So for the record, less than 2 weeks into his new job representing our country in the Netherlands, Hoekstra has apologized for his lie and for his lie about that lie.
Obviously, not a good look, even though it is coming from MSNBC. He did get caught lying about his lie about a lie. So he's a liar. Let's just be honest. Call a spade a spade. We can take this off for a minute because it makes me shout a little too loud. So, anti-Karamo faction picks former Rep. Pete Hoekstra as Michigan GOP chair. Today marks a realignment to a Trump-led Republican Party in Michigan. Warren Carpenter, a Metro Detroit Republican, said. So, Warren Carpenter, remember that name. Carpenter sponsored research used in a 140-page report titled, which came out, titled what? The Failure of Christina Karamo's Administration or something like that is the title. I went over it in my first video that shows Christina Karamo versus question mark in the thumbnail. So I went over that 140-page report, and it was mostly junk, honestly. There were a few things that came out of it, but Christina Karamo answered questions. She went on a little Q&A tour. I don't see, Pete Hoekstra or Republicans that have been in politics for a long time. Pete Hoekstra has been in politics since 1992, y'all. So he is a politician through and through. And that is the main difference between him and Christina Karamo. You're going to see that Christina Karamo doesn't have the record either of all of the donations. We're going to see that. So anyway, Carpenter sponsored research used in a 140-page report, which came out in December, calling Karamo a failure who essentially driven the party to bankruptcy. Now, again, it's not just Michigan that's dealing with these issues. It's because there is a true populist movement happening within the Republican Party and independent and libertarian, where people are rising up to try to hold their government accountable. And that is why January 6th happened. That's why the FBI thing with Whitmer happened, because they justify securing their capital, securing their buildings, because they are terrified of we the people finding out and actually doing something about their corruption. The last time that the party didn't take down Trump's endorsement for a candidate that got us into the situation where we had to remove the one that the grassroots picked. So wait, the last time that the party didn't take Donald Trump's endorsement for a candidate, that got us into the situation where we had to remove the one that the grassroots picked, Carpenter said. So to me, it sounds like Trump isn't for grassroots. Because if Trump was for grassroots, then he would respect what the grassroots wants. Now, some people say that Donald Trump just didn't know about what's really going on here in Michigan. Now, again, I will give you Pete Hoekstra is a liar. But in this article that I have to use my phone, unfortunately, to read because it's New York Times and it's behind a paywall on my computer, but not on my phone. Hoekstra says, Mr. Hoekstra said he was eating dinner on Friday night at the Trestle Stop, a restaurant in Hamilton, Michigan, in the western part of the state, where the former president called him and asked if he wanted his endorsement. He says, I know what's going on in Michigan. You know, you're my guy, Mr. Hoekstra said. So allegedly Trump said, I know what's going on in Michigan. You know, you're my guy. So what's the excuse there? I don't know. But allegedly Trump knows about what's going on in Michigan, and yet he still picked Pete Hoekstra. What does that mean about Trump? You know, you have to check your premises. If things are contradicting each other, then maybe you're standing in the wrong spot looking at the picture. Just saying. Trump endorsed 2022 state attorney general candidate Matt DePerno, not only in the 2022 election, but after losing to Democrat Dana Nessel, he endorsed him to the party's chair. But they voted in Karamo, so Karamo was not endorsed for the Michigan GOP chair position by Donald Trump. I think that we course correct like never before in history. I think that we course corrected like never in history before the state of Michigan. And not very many times across the country where we get a second bite at the apple. A lot of people don't get to say that in life, Carpenter said. I'm praying that moving forward, we're in this not to fight Republicans, but to win elections and work against Democrats. That's the party I signed up for. It certainly isn't going to help you win elections, dividing the party and putting in someone like Pete Hoekstra. Republicans in Michigan can't go into the February 27 presidential primary with two factions, Hoekstra said, adding that the party has to unite. Again, it ain't going to happen under you, so I don't know why they picked you. This is the outsider looking in that I wanted to share with you. Styx Hexenhammer, and he's going to jump right in and share exactly what I've been saying. GOP has money issues. It is not Christina Cramo's fault.
It's time to talk about the enormous fundraising disadvantage that the GOP faces going into the 2024 election. And it is no joke. The Democrats are flush with money, and the Republicans and certain competitive states, they're basically broke right now. Some places they're doing good fundraising. I will point out that there are 3 reasons for this. And a lot of the takes that I see only focus on one of them. But there's really 3 reasons. The first is that there's a lot of infighting in the Republican Party. For instance, in Michigan, there's a complete schism between the neocon sort of establishment GOP there and the populist sort of MAGA side. They're not working with one another to fundraise. They're sort of going it alone. Naturally, therefore, the party structure within that state is going to be impoverished because they can't organize anything. Half the party is going one way, half the party is going the other. They're not willing to cross-fundraise or organize with one another. They don't even want to talk to each other. What the fuck do you think the result of that is? They've got a similar problem in other states as well. So the first is party infighting. And you do see infighting within the Democratic Party, but where you see that, for instance, with the Geek Squad, are in areas that are safely blue. And so it doesn't really matter if the neoliberals don't campaign for Ilhan Omar, because she's basically guaranteed re-election unless someone of Middle Eastern heritage happens to run against her on a conservative platform, which would be fucking hilarious. I would point out there is a looming problem for the Democrats, which is that they've pissed off a lot of Islamic voters in the country. Well,
which we're going to get into because Biden came here to Michigan, and I have one article that shares that group of people he's discussing is not happy with Biden.
That's not necessarily the greatest idea. You see, Michigan and places up there are more competitive than Long Island. They appear to have bet on a losing horse for that one. Be interesting to see if they get punished as well by the Jewish community and end up losing complete control of New York. Polling suggests that it's getting a little bit closer, and it ain't just because Lee Zeldin happens to be charismatic. So that's number one, infighting. Between 2 polar ideologies within the party, one which is pro-war, one which is anti-war. One wants corporatism, the other wants economic populism. One party wants adventurism and interfering with the economy, and the other one tends to be more free market, et cetera, et cetera. So that's one way.
There you go. There you have it. And that is why I met Christina Cramo once at the Q&A that I have posted on, and I highly recommend you guys watch it because I think she answered the questions that were asked very well. But I don't know her other than meeting her once, so I don't know her. And I've done some research, and I have not found anything damning like I have on Pete Hoekstra. Now, again, to be fair, she doesn't have the political history, which is one of the reasons why I like her too. So I'm for free market. I'm for the populist movement that he's discussing. And Pete Hoekstra unfortunately is on the other side. And I'm going to post this in the Substack, and you can finish watching because he has some excellent points beyond that. But my main point with this video, to share it, was to show that this schism is viewed by political commentators that are outside of Michigan just like this. This is how people view it, and this is what I'm seeing too. So getting into Pete Hoekstra, this is little sis, and this is all his connections, so his relationships. You can see Heritage Foundation. I'll have all this for you, so if you want to look more into each of these different donors, Pete Hoekstra for Congress. You can see down here campaign donors. You have Hank Meyer, who, by the way, I didn't know this, the right place is, bought and paid for by Hank Meyer. Daniel DeVos. So you see the names here, DeVos, connected since when? 1996 to Daniel DeVos. Richard DeVos since 1995 to 2012. Fisher, and some of you might know these names that I don't know. I only know a few names because, again, I've only been getting into this political information, local politics in particular, for a year since I started fighting against Goshen. So, again, you might know more than I do about these names. Interlocks, Heritage Foundation. Let's see. Data, we'll go here. This is where we have a lot of the connections just shown on the same page. So Comstock, I don't know if Comstock Park if that's the name. It sounds like it would be, but 2014 to 2016, Betsy DeVos from 1994 to 2012. This is why this individual was picked. He's connected. He's part of the establishment. He already bent the knee long ago and will continue to bend the knee for money. And so if you think that money is going to win the election, I'm sorry, I don't think so. With a populist movement rising, we are tired of establishment money. Daniel DeVos, 96 to September 29th, 2011. Weiser is in here somewhere. Ellens, Hobbs, Donald Trump, of course, 2016. Doug DeVos from 2008 to 11. There we go. Edgar Prince, who is the founder of the Prince Corporation, 1992. So helped him get into politics to begin with. The Prince family, very powerful family. Ellen Weiser, right here, 2012. And that is a consultant. Okay. There's another Prince married into the family from 1992 to 2012, 8200. So Eric Prince, 1999 to 2005. So you could see he's got the connections. He's a neocon. Come over here to the right place, which I bring up the right place because it is involved with all of the economic development in Western Michigan, including Goshen. And it's connected to Whitmer and Dr. Bill Pink at Ferris State University, which I'm going to have to get into another video next week. I'll talk about Bill Pink because I found some NDA information about his getting hired behind an NDA, the most strict NDA ever. Just so much shady stuff going on around here. It's crazy. So the right place, Meyer PAC. Look at all this, though. Donors, okay? Hank Meyer for days. Donor. DeVos is involved. Bush. Hoekstra. They're all connected. And so, again, you want to look at this yourself? I encourage you to do so. Always do your own research. Don't just believe me. Don't outsource your thinking. Christina Caramo doesn't have many connections under the data because she hasn't been involved in politics forever. Unauthorized is here. 2003, she stepped out of unauthorized. She explained in the Q&A, so I'm not going to get into it, but I thought it was understandable. It's hard to find people that will actually look into the election fraud. And how are you going to have any kind of election if you don't get the fraud under control? Michigan Republican Party chair, okay? And then this is what I like. C.S. Lewis Fellows Program on Science and Society. I wish I could go to that school. That'd be cool. Biola University for Christian Apologetics and, relationships. You see unauthorized. Michigan Republican Party, America First, Secretary of State Coalition. So in that coalition was this other individual that was an unauthorized as well, Rachel Ham. So these are just two individuals that are trying to work together across state lines to get the This is my understanding, to get the election fraud under control, which it doesn't need to be. So yeah, Rachel Ham is the other one for unauthorized. And if you go to Rachel Ham, Conservatives for Election Integrity. Trump backs Hoekstra over Karamo. Hoekstra will make the Republican Party of Michigan great again and has my complete and total endorsement to be its chairman. Trump wrote on its social media site, Truth Social, the former president, who in 2018 tapped Hoekstra to be his U.S. ambassador to the Netherlands, said Hoekstra did a fantastic job in that role, and he was a great congressman before that. So, again, I disagree. I don't like what he did with everything that I've shared so far. This is a recent interview with Christina Karamo and Steve Bannon. Brandy, it's always hypocrisy. Oh, okay, we're still going. I'm almost to that, so I just have a few more things to share about Pete Hoekstra, and then I'm going to get into the EDRA versus MESA and show you the receipts.
Name, where are you from?
Ramon Bueller from McLean, Virginia, and I am a leader in the effort for the Keep 9 Amendment to stop the left from packing the Supreme Court. We know that packing the Supreme Court would be a disaster for the American Republic. We know the left doesn't want to talk about it. It's their biggest lie of 2024 that they're not interested in packing the court. And the best way to expose that lie is to ask any Democrat who says they're not interested in court packing, where do you stand on the amendment to ban it?
Okay, fantastic. One question. I know they want to pack it. They want to get more justices. 12. I'd like just to get the guys that we send up there as conservatives to vote.
Brandon, you don't have to be sorry. I love you too. These people block you so you can't respond elsewhere, but then now they want to have the conversation here. I completely agree. You know, I was blocked on some of these areas, and I was shut out of this Trojan horse thing. I was fighting Goshen, but I wasn't going to tote the line of certain people, and so I got pushed out. But that's okay, because I'm not going to bend the knee for anybody. I'm not a sellout. I'm not in this for money. I'm really, literally just in this to share information I find, because we need to be informed about what the hell is going on here. So I will show, let me find it. You know what? I'm going to keep playing this while I do.
The way they say they're going to vote.
And
just to pack it with MAGA.
The threat of court packing. The left is using the threat of court packing to intimidate those justices and corrupt the law. Now, if you had a bunch of hoodlums outside your house and they said, we're not interested in.
You think that's what's happening, is the intimidation of these justices?
That's exactly right. If you asked a bunch of hoodlums, are you interested in burglary? And they said, we don't believe in burglary, but we don't want to outlaw it. You know exactly what they're going to do. And that's what Pelosi and that's what Schumer and frankly, that's what Biden are planning in 2025 if they win, is to pack the court and destroy our republic.
So, okay, real quickly, how does this audience help you? How do we find out more? Our vast nationwide audience, where do they go to find out more?
You go to keep9.org, keep9.org, and you give us your name. And then we want to ask every candidate running in the country, where do you stand on the Keep 9 Amendment to ban Supreme Court packing? Okay.
All right, so I found, this is a receipt right here, and there are 3 that have been approved to be removed for copyright issues. So that means the Google legal team has discovered that there were copyright issues. And again, all you have to do to avoid this is to give credit where credit is due. But if you have a problem with EDRA because they don't fall in line with what you say or what you want, then you won't credit them. That's what I'm seeing. So it's an issue. People work really hard on their stuff. I always give credit. I do the reference thing. Again, I want you to find the information, so it's never a secret around here. And I have this as well. So I'm going to open it with Google Docs just to maintain my privacy. So, for immediate release, partisan nonprofit MESA caught infringing EDRA's of Michigan's copyright. The local Michigan nonprofit, whose board includes Republican legislator Pete Hoekstra, Mecosta Environment and Security Alliance, MESA, has had pages removed from Google's index over copyright infringement of EDRA of Michigan's website content. Mecosta County, Michigan, February 5th, 2024. Last week, Google's legal team confirmed that local nonprofit MESA has had several web pages removed, which I have found that they have been removed from the search results due to use of material copyrighted by EDRA of Michigan. In accordance with the applicable copyright laws in the relevant jurisdiction, we'll remove these URLs from our search results globally, the team reported. In the wake of recent website design, MESA's website copied text and content layout from edraofmichigan.org's homepage and its page on Goshen in Big Rapids, among others. According to the organization's website, protectmecosta.com, MESA exists to raise awareness, educate the community, and fund legal efforts to stop the construction of this Goshen facility, and will oppose any attempt to bring a business into our community that has significant ties to nations who threaten harm to America. MESA's board members include Drew Bourne, a candidate for the recent Michigan GOP chair bid put forth by the Grand New Party, and former Michigan State Representative Pete Hoekstra. Hoekstra recently replaced Christina Caramo as Michigan GOP chair after a highly contentious series of events, at the conclusion of which Caramo accused the Republican National Committee of collusion to remove the grassroots movement from the party. Earlier this October, Hoekstra appeared in a promotional video by the EV Taxpayer Task Force, which MLive journalists found to be connected to a foreign agency running digital influence campaigns funded by dark money. When you say dark money, unknown money. It's unfortunate, said Marjorie Steele, founder and executive director of EDRA of Michigan. We don't have time for this kind of cloak and dagger drama. Grassroots organizations like ours have a lot of important work ahead of us. Amen. We're currently fighting, it's like David and Goliath, and that's strength in numbers, right? So in the future, MESA, you should just give credit where credit is due. EDRA has been working long and hard, the people behind EDRA, to get out information, because information is the most important thing. Because we need people to know what's going on. One person, 10 people, 100 people cannot go against the state of Michigan, against Whitmer and the MEDC and Eagle. So the infighting, I hope that we can stop that. Now I'm going to get back to I'm going to get back to this other video.
Okay, one last question. Can we unpack Roberts? Do we get a mulligan? Do we get a mulligan?
What we have to do is free these guys to vote their consciences instead of being intimidated by the leftists in Congress.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you so much. Deconstruct the administrative state. Yes. Watch yourself. Don't. Okay, here's a hero here. Christine Caramo. How you doing, ma'am? How you doing?
Doing good. How are you?
Now, are you over at the RNC meeting? Are you an official chair? You're not a chair? Are you officially invited? Are you just there over watching? What's going on?
So I am the chair of the Michigan Republican Party, and the RNC. The RNC is attempting to usurp my leadership, even though the overwhelming majority of the Michigan Republican Party State Central Committee sides with me and wants me to maintain my chairmanship. There has been no change, and the RNC has decided to vacate the chair role and deciding to not credential me as a member.
They are not credentialing you?
No, even though I'm legally still the chair, legally control the party's assets, and they're just unilaterally making that decision after they told me they were staying out of the chair dispute. Even though overwhelmingly they've been sent evidence from our general counsel, our secretary, regarding the fact that I am still legally the chair, they're completely ignoring that in order to implement one of their pawns.
And what are they trying to do in Michigan? Who are they trying to put in?
Pete Hoekstra, who was chair.
But not Ambassador Hoekstra.
Yes.
Ambassador Hoekstra?
Yes.
I love Ambassador Hoekstra. I'm not sure he's the exact fire breather you need in Michigan right now, right?
Well, not at all. The reality is that
he's a good guy. Why did he fall into this?
Well, the thing about it is the precinct delegates, thanks to the precinct strategy, elected me to be their chair. And what we want in Michigan is a grassroots leadership that ensures that as many people as humanly possible know how to organize at the ground level to take back their counties. That's how we save our country. We save our country at the county level. And the philosophy of, is not what the people want. That's why the majority of our state central committee stands with me and wants me to remain as the chair.
Okay, so what happens in the next 24 hours over across the street?
Well, the RNC claims they're going to credential us both as guests, even though I'm still legally the chair. Now Michigan has one less representative at the 168, which is a problem. I need to be credentialed as chair.
Okay. Where do people go? By the way, Ambassador Hoekstra, we love you. You're fantastic. You're one of the best big picture guys. You've done tremendous work for President Trump, but this is a grassroots fight, right? You need to be a grassroots knife fighter, not an ambassador, right? You're playing at another level. This is down and dirty. So he ought to back off.
Yeah, MIGOP.org, MIGOP on Twitter, Instagram. And we're just encouraging everybody, get involved with the Michigan Republican Party. If you live in Michigan, take back your counties. We want to empower as many people as possible how our government works, how to hold our elected officials accountable, and make sure we actually elect constitutionalists. We cannot continue to elect people who betray us and go against us and collude with the Democrats. We're done with that type of Republican Party. And that's what we're doing at the RNC level. We're not going to tolerate this, because if Ronna can vacate my seat, your state is next.
Wow. Amazing. Last question. Are we going to win Michigan?
Oh, absolutely. Because we're training our grassroots activists of not just how to engage our government, but how to protect the election. Because if we don't protect the election, we will see a repeat of 2020.
Wow. Christine Karamo, let's give it up for her.
And now, me and the way my cynical brain works is that the Republicans, the rhinos, the uniparty really has no desire whatsoever to close the border. We're seeing that. And they have no desire to fix the fraudulent election schemes that was allowed last time and probably the time before that, but they don't want to change it because they want to use it for themselves this year. I mean, and that's why, again, Democrats and Republicans, everybody should be worried about election fraud, voter fraud, because it could happen either side. So the Democrats, you won last time, you won with the election fraud, but now this time maybe the Republicans win and then they start going against the Democrats, right? So if the Republicans get in, then instead of January 6ers, we're going to have some other group of Americans that just happen to have a D next to their name that are going to be attacked by our government, and I'm not for it. I don't care if you're Democrat or Republican. We, the people, need to stand up and help each other out against our tyrannical government, and we should not allow them to attack Republicans because I'm a Democrat, and we shouldn't allow them to attack Democrats because I'm a Republican. If it, like, we need to be better. We need to be better. And I like how she jabbed at Hoekstra, but didn't say it was a jab, because again, it's not, constitutionalists do not like the Patriot Act, period. Nor should they. Okay. Coming over here, the truth about Christina Karamo and Michigan GOP. Thank you, Rep. Steve Cara. I'm sorry if I said that wrong. I actually have a video of him for standing up amidst this unbelievable pressure. Since the day Christina Karamo won the race for Michigan Republican Party chair on 18th of February 2023, there has been a concerted effort to undermine the state party. Christina and her team have made mistakes along the way. She is not the best fundraiser, most organized, or most experienced, but she is a principled person we can and should believe in. If she had help, if she had backup, if the establishment would stop being so arrogant and want the freaking position to themselves, then the party would do a lot better. But since the beginning, she has been worked against. And that is why, from where I'm sitting, she has been not as transparent with everybody. If you know that people are trying to attack you, get you out of your position, then you're going to be a little bit more skeptical. I don't want to say paranoid, but worried. You're worried about, who is for you and who is against you. Again, right off the bat, this individual knows that they wanted to do a vote of no confidence after 180 days. They had it planned from the moment she got in there. The state party could have been highly successful to this point if it weren't for a year-long firing squad, destructive and persistent intra-party attacks levied against the state party since the onset of her term as chair include but are not limited to. On February 18th, the state convention, before she had a chance to lift a finger, adversaries proclaimed there would be a vote of no confidence taken against Christina after 120 days. Prior to the first state committee meeting under Chairwoman Karamo on April 15, 2023, the rumors of an effort to oust Christina were so pervasive that I wrote a call for unity letter and shared it with several state committee members. Before each state committee meeting, the efforts to undermine Christina became stronger and increasingly malicious. All the while, Christina and the state party leadership, not knowing who they could trust, retreated on their heels in defense mode. She's a human being. Leading up to the state committee meeting on December 2nd, 2023, at Commonwealth of Faith Church in Redford, there was an effort to sabotage the state party that was so blatant and offensive, it caused the church to revoke their permission to use the venue with less than 24 hours' notice. On January 6, 2024, the faction interested in removal gathered and voted 40-5 to remove Christina. On January 13th, the group voted 59-1 to keep Christina as chair overall. When the votes from the two meetings are combined, this is 59-40 show of support, is a clear indicator that the committee is nowhere near the 75% threshold to have her removed. The amount of time spent putting out fires and clearing up misinformation being spread about the party vastly outweighed the amount of time, energy, and resources the state party could have put towards positive actions such as fundraising, mobilizing activists, and preparing for victory in 2024. The harsh reality is the plot to erase the historic grassroots victory in Michigan was well orchestrated and fueled by the fake news media. This attack wasn't about Christina. This attack was on our grassroots victory. Exactly. This is one of the reasons why I'm going to stand firm. Again, I don't know Christina. Maybe there's problems with her, but the grassroots wanted her. And the fact that the establishment is attacking her is a freaking problem. Unfortunately, well-intentioned grassroots activists have turned against one another due to differing perspectives built off confusion, misunderstanding, and chaos. Absolutely. The party has spiraled out of control as a result, but the party can be restored if we come together and unite on principle. But that's the thing, the principles aren't the same with these two parties within a party, as we heard from Styx Hexenhammer. One is for crony capitalism, and the other is for actual free market. You can't justify those, you can't get over those differences. And I'm talking about at the leadership levels. The grassroots people, the normal people that have been hoodwinked into going with Pete Hoekstra, in my opinion, they were hoodwinked. It was off of misunderstanding, confusion. Those people do want free market as well. But unfortunately, they're under the people that don't. Hoekstra definitely doesn't care about free market. Knowing the bylaws were not properly followed by the faction working against Christina leading up to the January 6th and January 20th meetings is critically important. Article 4, Section G2 of the bylaws states that signatures of at least 50% of the entire committee are required to petition for a vote regarding the removal of an officer. Although 54 out of 107 individuals signed a petition, 4 were not regular members in good standing when they signed the petition calling for a vote to remove the chairwoman, as they had not properly paid their dues when signing. According to Article 3, Section E of the Michigan Republican State Committee bylaws, each regular member of the committee must annually contribute at least $25. Thanks to leaders such as Christina Caramo, we have grown a movement that is restoring the Michigan Republican Party and is passionate about standing on principles and fighting for not only all of us Michiganders, but those behind bars because of overreaching policies. Our government has weaponized illegal operations like the so-called Patriot Act against our brothers and sisters from January 6, 2021 to indefinitely detain U.S. citizens without due process of law, while society largely turned a blind eye to Antifa as they burn down cities around our nation and continue to pillage and plunder retail stores nationwide. Grateful for leaders who stand up for free markets, equal opportunity, less rules, regulations, fines, taxes, and fees. Additionally, the military-industrial complex, championed by neocons and warmongers such as Joe Biden, John Kasich, and Nikki Haley, compel our bravest men and women onto the battlefield in perpetual war without the decency or authority of a congressional declaration under Article 1, Section 8. Yes, Congress has not declared a war, and yet we're at war all the time. I mean, for the last 50 years, no war has been declared, and yet we still keep going to war. We have been taken over. And I joined after 9/11. I didn't know, 9/11 happened. I was in 8th grade. And I thought, I'm going to fight for my country and I'm going to defend our freedoms. But then I realized you're not defending freedoms when you're over in someone else's country and doing the things that we were doing in those countries. So we need to retain strong leadership of the party and our elected officials. I am really America first. I'm not Israel first. I'm not China first. I am America first, okay? Was Peter Hoekstra behind the attempted bribe of Grant Golsa? I'm sorry. There is a history of money flowing from Hoekstra to Carpenter. So look at this. Carpenter, the one that made that 140-page report that would supplant Christina Caramo so that Hoekstra could get in. So Hoekstra paid the person who made the report. This isn't recent. This is 2012. But the fact that they have exchanged money, that they know each other, they are connected together, there is a connection here, means that there's some shady stuff going down. Let's see if I can zoom in. Let's see. No, I can't. Let's see. Grant Golsa, being sworn under penalty of perjury, state the following. I am a state committee member elected from the Macomb County in the 10th Congressional District. It's very small. I apologize if you cannot see it. I was contacted repeatedly by Warren Carpenter, who was seeking my support by seeking my signature on the petition for a vote on the removal. And this happened. This is about Christina Caramo. I am familiar with Warren Carpenter and know it to be his voice on these calls. The petition was presented not as a vote for removal, but rather as a vote to settle the dispute. I was offered in writing via text, I'll make a promise. If you run for anything in the future, I will personally get you past the primary. This is a promise. In order to persuade me to sign the petition, which I interpreted as an attempt to bribe me. After refusing to sign the petition, I was told by Warren Carpenter on a voicemail, I can't wait for the day that you try to run for anything. I'm going to make sure that everybody knows that the entire effing state, that you stood by and you did absolutely nothing. You are a coward. You are a weak coward. I'm so furious with you right now. You know better than this. You'll never hold a single office anywhere in your life again. I will make it my personal mission to run against you in any place you do anything, knowing that you know, and being on the budget committee and then making these BS arguments the way that you have. I hope you share this with everybody because I'm coming. I cannot believe you. Again, anything that you try to run for, I will make sure that you don't get over the finish line. I will make it my life's mission to work against you in anything that you put your name in for. This is the kind of people that are in our politics, y'all. This is why I call them, power heads instead of crackheads. They are awful. Can you imagine the type of pressure that these people are under that want to do good but that get into maybe grassroots politics or get into these things trying to do something, and then you get threatened, you get blackmailed, you get co-opted, you get corrupted, captured. And this is why I won't get into politics. I'm just going to look at it and report it and show that the system, you can't change the system from within. It will just eat you up and spit you out because of people like this. In one conversation during the time he sought my signature, I was told that the removal had been planned, including the drafting of the lawsuit, during the phone call with a man purporting to be Troy Cummings. I recorded my phone calls with Warren Carpenter as a party to the conversation. I turned over copies of the recording to Michigan GOP on January 28th. And this is Michelle Bemke. And this was Bob Cushman that reported this, so thank you, Bob. Was Peter Hoekstra behind the attempted bribe? There is a history of money flowing from Hoekstra to Carpenter. So we don't know officially if he is behind, but it looks pretty bad, I would say. Let's see what else I have to share on Pete. Lobbying disclosures. So Bayer, I thought that was interesting. Hoekstra, Core Energy, and Columbia Helicopters. So the Hoekstra Global Strategies is his lobbying firm. He was a lobbyist for a little while as well. This right here. Tanya, Michelle, as always, you have provided us with amazing information. My apologies. I didn't come in your live to argue. I will defend myself. I hope when you have time to see you at a meeting. Thank you. Thank you, Tanya. I appreciate you being willing to look at the information and, update your software, update your information that you have. So thank you for that. And thank you for hanging out. And as far as everything else, I haven't read a majority of it, to be honest. Obviously, I'm trying to get this good, but I will look at everything that was said after this. HR 5533, the Biodefense and Pandemic Vaccine Drug Development Act of 2006. Hoekstra is involved right here, co-sponsors Peter Hoekstra of Michigan. Now, this bill allowed for Big Pharma to get huge, and it's what allowed them to create BARDA. So this is discussing the bill right here. So despite the introduction of the Biodefense and Pandemic Vaccine and Drug Development Act of 2005, pharmaceutical companies are still reluctant to enter into the business of mass producing vaccines, and critics of the bill condemn the blanket liability protection it provides to these companies. Introduced in 2005, BioShield 2 was approved by a voice vote the next day. BioShield 2 will allow drug companies to bypass typical testing procedures for new vaccines and drugs in case of an avian pandemic, flu outbreak, or bioterrorist attack. So again, using fear. So when the anthrax attacks happened, which was probably our CIA, right? We know now that they will entrap us, problem, reaction, solution all the time. So the anthrax attacks that were occurring allowed for this bill to go through because we were afraid. So now we can have drug companies that even if there's injuries, they can't be held responsible just so that they can pump out a bunch of drugs. It's awful. BioShield 2 aims to shield the pharmaceutical companies who develop the vaccines against personal injury lawsuits brought by individuals suffering from adverse reactions or side effects caused by the vaccine. The bill would offer 10-year market exclusivity to drug companies as well, which would prevent competitors from developing more affordable generic alternatives. So, great deal for Big Pharma, and Peter Hoekstra was behind that as well. I'm going to have to kind of cruise through a few things, unfortunately, because we're running out of time and I had a lot more information to share. How the U.S. weaponized the war on COVID. The U.S. Department of Defense defines a countermeasure as a form of military science. Okay, let me see. In 2006, CADLEC helped create the Public Health Emergency Medical Countermeasure Enterprise to oversee research, advanced development, procurement, stockpiling, deployment, and utilization of MCM during international and accidental or natural public health and medical emergencies. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services oversees this. Oh boy, I accidentally clicked something. Okay. The Biomedical Advanced Research and Development Authority, BARDA. So this is what Hoekstra put into place. It's just like DARPA, which is awful, but now it's BARDA for Biomedical Advanced Research. Is the agency within the HHS that delivers PHE-MCE, working with industry partners and funding the development of civilian medical countermeasures. Essentially, U.S. government financing de-risks the development of these products by private companies, which the government then purchases and stockpiles. As HHS, which we the people purchase and stockpile. HHS states the current budget, although these MCMs may not have FDA approval at the time of initial delivery to the Strategic National Stockpile, they may potentially be used under investigational drug protocols, such as clinical trials, or may potentially be used under the FDA provisions for emergency use authorization. So it goes on to explain how BARDA is just like DARPA. And again, I'm not going to be able to go into all of it because of time's sake, but I highly recommend you read that if you're interested in how Hoekstra paved the way for COVID to happen back in 2006, which again, it was the Bush administration. He's just a lackey that's, doing Bush's work at the time. But he still signed it. He still put it in. Breaking exclusive. Christina Caramo targeted after uncovering potential fraud related to Ronna Romney McDaniel. So why is the RNC backing Hoekstra? Because, again, Christina Caramo won't bend the knee and is possibly revealing possible alleged criminal activity. Covering my butt. Christina Caramo was targeted after she uncovered potential fraud related to Romney McDaniel in Michigan. An effort to get rid of election integrity supporter Christina Caramo began as soon as she was elected head of the GOP in the state. This effort never really made sense and seemed over the top. Why was Caramo such a threat to the elites in the Michigan GOP? In Michigan, the GOP was run by a few big money donors. It appeared that they were willing to let the party fall apart rather than help Caramo and the grassroots and huge MAGA base in the state moving forward. And that's the thing, too. If they want to talk about, we want to get Trump to win this year. The majority of these people that don't like Hoekstra, they are 100% for Trump. They are MAGA to the core. So the big money decidedly went against Caramo. But why? Was it because she supported President Trump, which the rhinos across the country are working so hard to defeat? Efforts to oust Caramo really increased in December of 2023. The word on the street was Caramo couldn't raise money. But was that really it? Did that justify the actions that then happened? By the end of December, word on the street was that Caramo was going to be removed from the GOP leadership in early January. Then, on January 6th, a minority of GOP delegates met in Michigan and voted Caramo out. The big legacy media was all there, and they pushed the narrative that Caramo has been removed as head of Michigan GOP. That was another indicator to me. Now, of course, they do feint, an attack within an attack. But I don't think that that is what is going on. Excuse me. I do not think so. There is an orchestrated attack that just like that happened on Trump, except different. Trump was obviously attacked by the mainstream media. But in that case, how else do you look anti-establishment unless the establishment goes after you? In the case of Christina Caramo, she isn't establishment. There is no need to try to paint this picture that she is anti-establishment because she is anti-establishment. As far as everything I can tell, you look at all the records you see, she has not been in politics that long. To me, it seems she really wants to help the state of Michigan and the awful political corruption that is here. So that's the difference with the legacy media attacking Trump versus Christina. But the legacy media attacking Christina absolutely solidified, to a large degree, my thoughts on her. A long time ago, she was talking about the World Economic Forum, and again, she will talk about the root of the problem, which World Economic Forum, United Nations, Michigan Economic Development Corporation, Whitmer Central Planning. These are the root of our problems here in Michigan and the United States of America in general. So the fact that she will talk about it says something to me. When people don't talk about it, that says something to me. We soon learned that this was not the case. Caramo had not legally been removed, and a sanctioned meeting according to the GOP rules was held a week later, and Caramo won hands down with only one vote against her by the GOP delegates. Caramo was saved. So why the push to get her out? It turns out that the real reason Christina Caramo is being attacked is because she was getting very close to uncovering potential fraud related to the former Michigan GOP head, Ronna Romney McDaniel, and she doesn't want this getting out. Once Caramo took over the Michigan GOP, she had a hard time getting the numbers for the Michigan GOP's account balances. The related reports were not provided immediately, and when they were provided, it appeared that the party was around $600,000 in debt with $3 million LOC. In addition, the bank was reluctant to provide details on the party's bank accounts. This eventually led to a court battle filed in early December of 2023. The suit revolves around a property that the Michigan Republican Party, run by Caramo, claimed was the party's property. However, another group, the Michigan Party Trust, has made claims that they own the property, and yet this organization is not recognized as a political party or State Central Committee. And then it shows it right here. The Michigan GOP's position that the Michigan Republican Party trusts ownership in the property is fiction. Documents from the case dated in 2014 were the ones referred to as fiction. Note that Ronna Romney McDaniel was the Michigan GOP chair from 2015 through 2017. She oversaw the Republican Party in the state while this bogus agreement was in place. She is also mentioned in the suit. Below is the field document in this lawsuit. And if you want to read it, go to my Substack. Emergent Biosolutions applauds the passage and signing of BARDA legislation. That was back in 2006. So big company, big pharma company, loved what Hoekstra helped put into place. And this, they signed an agreement to be U.S. manufacturing partner for AstraZeneca, which we all know got pulled off the market faster than any because the heart attacks happened way too quick. So the health problems that they put into all the vaccines happened, again, too quickly. They got taken off the market, but that same company is still making billions today. Thanks to BARDA, thanks to the legislation allowing them to bypass all kinds of regulations. And Operation Warp Speed just did exactly that. Put it in warp speed. And then one last thing. I'm not going to get into these, but there has been talk about her trying to make it closed caucuses, not a closed primary, a closed caucus, which means the delegates will be voting a lot more all the way down to the county level. I understand some people don't like that, and I have to do more research to understand completely pros and cons. But I just wanted to show that back in the day, Michigan GOP may scrap the 2024 primary. Okay, that's right now. Sorry, we have one from 2022. Here we go, 2020 also. This one first. Republicans to scrap primaries and caucuses as Trump challengers cry foul. So in the past, this has been used to help Trump in his campaign. I don't have time to get into it, nor do I have all the information, but this is something that I feel like there are some people that are saying Christina Caramo doing this is an overstep, but then they did it in 2020 before she was ever in, and it was supposed to help Trump. So if it helps Trump, then maybe it's not bad. I don't know. You let me know on this. If you're a delegate too, let me know what you think about closed caucuses and closed primaries. But what from my understanding, what Christina Caramo was trying to do is a closed caucus. Connie, it's incredible how much the state of Michigan has been down the dark hole for years. I know. And we live in a time where things are being revealed, where this information is coming to light, and hence why they're trying to do the disinformation, misinformation, censorship stuff. Because, they don't like the truth getting out there. I'm going to have to skip some stuff, but this is important. Updated. Green Charter Township disputes Goshen's breach of development agreement. So we're switching gears just a little bit. Hoekstra has helped these individuals get into the Green Charter Township position with MESA. So MESA has been helpful and behind this new board. With that in mind, the new board hopefully is fighting Goshen. Updated at 9 a.m. to include the Goshen manufacturing. Oh, of course. The Green Charter Township Board of the Trustees held a special meeting January 30th, during which they met with the township attorneys in closed session for about 2 hours to discuss a potential breach of the development agreement between the township and Goshen Inc. Goshen Inc. has been working with the township for the past year to bring an electric vehicle battery component manufacturing facility to Mecosta County. A letter from Goshen Inc. attorneys to the township board referenced a breach of the development agreement that was approved by the previous township board during a meeting in August of 2022. It's such bull that they were able to do that when they knew they were getting recalled and voted out. And here's a side note. Jim Chapman, he got voted out, and yet he is still involved. He was caught talking to a company. Hold on. I had it in my mind, and then I had a billion other things come up in my mind. M&M Lawn Care and Snow Removal. So M&M Lawn Care and Snow Removal was talking to Jim Chapman and Jernstadt about removing trees on the Goshen site. Now, they're not even a tree removing service. Like, they can remove trees, but they're not an excavator or what have you. I don't even know if an excavator is the right word, but hopefully you understand what I mean. So they were talking, why is Jim Chapman involved in Goshen still, even though he was kicked out by the people there that live there? And of course, he's got powerful connections, right? The right place. He had Whitmer's lawyers. Okay. He has connections. And so those connections probably said, don't worry, you'll get fired from the township supervisor position and you'll have to lay low for a little while, but eventually we'll get you X, Y, or Z. You know, we'll get you some position somewhere else. He's still talking about Goshen and helping it out. Jernstadt too. Just an FYI for you. According, though, to the sources I have, that lawn care service has backed out, is not going to do it anymore. They're having difficulty finding people that will cut down the trees, and I'm thankful for that. So that we are winning, and I have full faith that Goshen is not going to come in. I also heard that Chuck Thelen said that this was the worst business deal he's ever made in his life, and I'm like, yes. Good. You shouldn't have come here. You should have asked first. Next time you go somewhere, ask if they want it. A letter from Goshen Inc. attorneys to the township board referenced a breach. Okay. According to the development agreement, the township's obligations include diligently reviewing plans and specifications for the project to ensure Goshen Inc. complies with applicable township ordinances. I hope no one will do it. I hope that they continue to have difficulties finding people that will contract out and cut the trees down. Because, again, people around here, they know. Whoever does it is going to be reamed by all of the grassroots people that don't want Goshen. So it's optics, baby. And in a way, that's all we have. That's why strength in numbers. Because legal, Eagle, EPA, hopefully I can get to the story about the EPA not doing their due diligence with this site. Diligently reviewing plans and specifications for the project to ensure Goshen Inc. complies with applicable township ordinances. The development agreement obligation coordinating with the Mecosta County Road Commission and Mecosta County Drain Commission with respect to public infrastructure improvements contemplated, and assisting Goshen Inc. in obtaining any licensing, permits, or other governmental authorizations necessary to advance and support the project. Following the closed meeting, one of the four attorneys present from the law firm Buckham. Okay. I'm going to keep going. Buckham, Thal, Sieber, Kaufman, and Coaches. Hopefully that's right. Told the board that after reviewing the letter from Goshen, it is the recommendation the board respond with a letter from the township attorneys. In our review of the letter, we do not believe the township has breached the contract development agreement, and we recommend a response back from the township's counsel to Goshen's counsel stating that we do not believe the township has breached the contract. The attorney said. A motion to request the township attorneys send a response to Goshen Inc. was approved. This matter has unfortunately become a legal issue, and as such, will have no further public comment on this matter to respect all parties involved. Goshen VP Chuck Thelen said. So, basically no comment. The Pioneer also reached out to Green Charter Township Supervisor Jason Cruz, but did not receive a response by the press. Again, full faith. It's not going to be stopped the way you think. It's going to be stopped not through the court system, in my opinion. But hey, we got to try everywhere, right? So I'm glad for that. I went over this in my last Michigan news update. EPA demand letter, Goshen must be filed now. Let's see. Red filing on Goshen EV megasite before logging commences. As you are aware, neighbors to the proposed Goshen factory in Mecosta County, Michigan have been expressing environmental concerns and asking for enforcement of federal oversight since the summer of 2023. And again, I went over all of this. Marjorie Steele, excellent work. What is at stake here is nothing short of the health of the entire Michigan River watershed, the Saginaw Aquifer, and the ecosystems and residents which depend on them. Absolutely. And it also got into the Detroit News. Goshen's plan to clear 120 acres of trees spurs renewed request for EPA oversight. Beth LeBlanc. I'm going to try to do better at that. You can see it, though, always on the live stream. So, as Goshen Inc. moves forward with plans to clear 120 acres of trees to make way for its Mecosta County battery parts plant, residents are questioning why federal regulators have yet to involve themselves in the company's permitting process for the property. There's not even a site plan yet, though. So I'm hoping that they'll move somewhere else. Or, obviously I don't want them anywhere. Goshen shouldn't be anywhere in the United States because China uses economic development to infiltrate. That's what they do. They're doing it in Africa and India right now. They build a bunch of stuff, and when the India or Africa can't pay, then they say, well, we own you now. We own all that stuff. And they put their people in there. Illinois, they're requesting Mandarin Chinese be known in order to work at the Illinois Goshen factory. Why? Because there's going to be Chinese nationals working at these places. And we all know that our government wants to go to war with somebody, and so it's probably going to be China. Even though China and Russia and the United States are all in the United Nations. That's our true enemy, the United Nations. They are not for private property. The concerns raised by an area resident in a letter to the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency earlier this month came 15 months after Goshen and the state of Michigan announced plans for a $2.4 billion tax-incentivized battery parts plant in Green Charter Township. The environmental situation is about to come to a head, Big Rapids resident Marjorie Steele wrote to the EPA January 16th, referring to Goshen's imminent tree cutting plans. We, as representatives of the local community, ask once more urgently that the EPA Region 5's offices take action on the federal oversight required of this development before violations occur. That's the thing. EPA is selective, right? They'll work against you, but they won't work for you because it's really just another tentacle of our central government. And again, it'll be used when they want to use it. Just like the Endangered Species Act. They'll use it against you and your private property, but when it comes to things like Goshen, they'll just ignore it. Steele sent the letter on behalf of a watchdog group, the Economic Development Responsibility Alliance of Michigan, that is keeping tabs on megasite developments in Big Rapids and Marshall and several other places. Because, again, economic development is how they're getting their plans done. And we haven't been asked. That's the number one problem, is just top down. She warned the EPA Region 5 administrator that community concerns over the lack of involvement by the state and federal environmental regulators was reaching a boiling point. The federal agency, for its part, seems unperturbed. The EPA told the Detroit News it was reviewing the letter and would coordinate with the state if or when Goshen submitted permit applications that fell under clean water and natural resources laws. The Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy said officials have spoken with Goshen leaders in pre-application meetings, but the company has yet to submit any applications that would trigger more in-depth engagement on the project. So is Chuck Thelen just lying then and trying to make us nervous or trying to say that it's still going through, that they're not even close to actually logging anything yet? Or are they going to just do it without approval? And then what? Pay fines? Like, they would pay fines with our own money. How messed up is that? We gave them $715 million taxpayer dollars at least. It's like $1.4 billion with subsidies or tax breaks or what have you. But let's just say we gave them $715 million cash. And now they can pay the fines. They can just do it and say, screw you, I'll pay you. With your own money. Tree cutting on private property is not regulated by state law, but county or state permits are required for the eventual removal of stumps, site grading, or later road construction. So they can cut the trees down, but they can't remove the stumps. And this is all for green, guys. This is for green and industry, right? You're going to cut down the green trees in the wetlands for green. They can only cut in uplands away from wetlands and can't even remove the stumps. Logging is a media stunt. Goshen will be stopped. I agree with you on that long report. It will be. One way or another, we don't want it here. You should have asked. Sorry, it's a bad business deal. Not. Go away. Chuck Thelen and Lee Chen and Lee Zen and World Economic Forum. We don't want you. In a statement last week, Chuck Thelen, vice president of Goshen's North American Manufacturing Division, said the company plans to selectively cut some trees on its property in the coming weeks. Goshen Inc. continues to follow all rules and regulations regarding its planned battery components facility in Green Charter Township to ensure the environment is protected. You know what you could do? You could just give our money back. You know, you didn't even buy the land. We bought it and gave it to you with our tax dollars, really. So it's really our property still, right? I mean, how much was the property, like actual land? How much was that? 715 million? I would like to know. Goshen Inc. announced plans in October of 2022 for a $2.4 billion battery parts plant in Green Charter Township just outside of Big Rapids, with plans to create an estimated 2,350 jobs. The company is set to receive $175 million in state tax incentives and a 30-year tax abatement as part of its deal. Way more than that $175 million. I don't know where they got that number. $715 million. Since the announcement of the project, the plan development has been beset by community and political pushback as individuals raise concerns about the secrecy of the deal, the unknown environmental impact in a largely agricultural area, and the influence of China on the project. Man, that was refreshing. That was such a refreshing paragraph to actually have all of them, not just China, 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 xenophobic, ignorant, rural people. No, that's not the case. Thank you for actually talking about other concerns that we have. On top of China, I'm not saying China isn't a concern, but it's not xenophobia. The CCP is not Chinese people. The CCP enslaved their people just like our governments are trying to do to us. So it's the Chinese government itself, obviously. I will keep reiterating that for clarification. The company was founded in China in 2006, but its U.S. subsidiary has been incorporated in California since 2014, which, by the way, that California location is 85% automated now. You think that we're really going to have 2,000 jobs, 2,500, whatever? Its board is 1/3 German, 1/3 American, and 1/3 Chinese. Last year, the entire 7-member, the board changes, by the way. It's a timed thing. So more and more power goes to Chinese people, but I've done a video on that already. Last year, the entire 7-member Green Township board was either recalled or resigned due to community concerns over the project. Thelen told local radio program last week that he expects to begin tree removal in the coming weeks. Thelen later clarified that 120 acres of trees are expected to be removed after conversations with the group's environmental consultant and the state regulatory agency. After 5 months of conversation, we have a good, solid understanding of what the expectations are, he told the Band of Local Radio's program. Thelen added that the group expected to submit its final design and environmental study in March to local, state, and federal regulators in Michigan, which will trigger an about 6-month review and permit consideration process. He hopes to break ground on the project in late summer or early fall. So March, got to look out for that. Steele argued in her letter to the EPA that Goshen will eventually need to seek federal approvals under 3 different sections of the Federal Clean Water Act, governing pollutant discharge, airborne contaminants, and wetlands and streams. A September 2023 analysis prepared by Barr Engineering found Goshen's property north of 18 Mile included nearly 60 acres of wetlands that would fall under the state's Natural Resources and Environmental Protection Act. In July, the company bought about 270 acres of land east of 131 and north of 18 Mile with taxpayer dollars. Steele argued the project should qualify as a red file project, a designation for project with the potential to impact critical environmental area or to involve major discharges. A red file project loops in not only the EPA, but also the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services, resulting in a longer permitting process. Hopefully we can get that through. The longer we can drag this out, just like they do to us, right? Drag drag us through the court system for years and years until you're broke or beaten down so much that you give up. Let's do that to them. It's clear that the federal oversight is both needed and legally required, Steele wrote. What is at stake here is nothing short of the health of the entire Muskegon River watershed. Okay, exactly. The state environmental agency has been avoiding premature involvement in the project, informing Republican lawmakers who were pressuring action last May that had not yet received permit applications that would merit the agency's involvement. Again, I have to keep bringing it up. I thought it was glorious that in Michigan, Whitmer's State of the State speech, she did not mention Marshall or Goshen when she was bragging about all of the money that she's spending, our money that she's spending on economic development. She didn't say anything about Marshall or Goshen. She knows. And she really didn't say anything about wind and solar either, like in particular. Because, again, she knows people here in Michigan are against EVs. We don't want your stupid solar panel farms for miles and miles, acres and acres. Not miles and miles, acres and acres. It is fully possible that multiple approvals will be required before construction or operations activities begin. However, until we receive an application, we cannot presuppose the types of permits that will be needed or their potential impacts, former Eagle acting director Aaron Keatley wrote in May. All right, let's see. Battle Creek Enquirer. Real quick, I have to say, I really don't like that the news, in order to actually get the news from multiple sources, you have to pay everybody. I have to pay the Battle Creek. I have to pay, Detroit Free Press. I have to pay the Detroit News. Like, this is bull. Just like with the football. You know, I have Paramount Plus because I thought that you could watch the football games on Paramount Plus. But no, some of them are on Paramount Plus, some of them are on Peacock, some of them are on Fox, some of them are on NFL or ESPN. It's ridiculous. This is the death of net neutrality, and I don't like it. I don't like that everything's behind a damn paywall. You have to pay $100 a month just to get the information. It's stupid. And again, with information being the most important thing, the fact that they're putting it behind paywalls drives me crazy. It's not. You want the news to be seen, then don't have it behind a paywall. Sorry for the rant. Solar farms planned for Coldwater and Marshall. This just came out on the 3rd of February, so a couple days ago. Michigan South Central Power Agency will consider building solar farms to generate 9.6 megawatts of energy in Coldwater and Marshall after negotiations to purchase power from an Oceana County solar farm ended. We couldn't agree on contract rates, Power Agency Manager Pam Sullivan said of negotiations with North Star Energy. Sullivan could not disclose the proposed price because of confidentiality agreements. Again, NDAs should be illegal. This affects everybody in Michigan. Located in Michigan's Oceana County, North Star Energy-owned Hart Solar offered to sell up to 100 megawatts. The company was waiting to start construction until obtaining power purchase contracts with municipal, cooperative, commercial, and industrial customers in the Midwest. They developed a plan for solar farms in Coldwater and Marshall. Coldwater would use the property the city owns along the east side of I-69 between State and Newton Roads. Sullivan said construction depends on MSCPA, obtaining a grant. Of course, that's the thing. There's no demand for all this, and so public money has to go into it in order to create the product without demand. And then private industry gets the profits once the demand has been falsely created. Opinion, a growing epidemic, something I didn't know about. Thought I'd just shed some light. This is Brian Miller out of Big Rapids. I want to make you aware of a growing trend in the state of Michigan, particularly in rural counties like ours. It's a growing epidemic. I am talking about a significant decrease in the number of prosecuting attorneys in the rural counties throughout the state. So here's another issue we have. Without the good guys to hold bad guys accountable, it increases our chances of being victimized by evildoers exponentially. Although I've been aware of this growing problem for a while, it wasn't until recently when members of our office met with Mecosta County's chief prosecutor that I realized the real risk we are facing here at home. Sadly, our prosecutor's office is not unlike any other prosecutor's office in our region of the state. The Prosecutors Association of Michigan conducted a study in 2018 and 2019 in response to ongoing concerns and increased demands from prosecuting attorneys throughout the state. In Michigan, we have 83 counties. The study focused on 28 of the 83 in that study. Findings indicated that 100% of these 28 counties surveyed are understaffed. Okay. Another problem of being understaffed, again, caretakers, 200,000 people short by next year, by the end of 2025. So, yeah, you go into any restaurant, you see shortages. I have a few more articles to share, little tidbits. They're not like directly connected, but Michigan SOS, Jocelyn Benson sitting on 1 million in PAC funds ahead of the 2024 election. Is she going to go up to be the governor? If Whitmer takes Biden's place, is the Secretary of State, Benson, going to try to fill Whitmer's shoes? And if so, what do you guys think of Benson? I'm going to do some research into her as well. I haven't yet, but I've heard bad things. Obviously, she's in Whitmer's cabinet, so she's for central planning, and I'm not for that. Ratepayer Finance Incentive Fund plan for DTE consumers draws ire of cities' advocacy groups. So, real quick, I'm not going to be able to get into everything with Consumers Energy, but they have 13 dams that they have officially put up for sale. I personally am going to make a prediction. It's going to be the tribes that buy it because the environmental agencies and the tribes are working together to remove dams. And I think that dams are perfectly acceptable as long as we don't overdam. Just like everything else, in moderation. If we have balance, then it should not be an issue. Like California, for instance, they had those dams so that they could grow food, because without the water being dammed up, then they can't have farms and so on and so forth because they don't have water, right? So it's a pool of water to draw from, and it helps create more life, more greenery, so on and so forth. So dams, we copied the beaver. It's a natural thing. So there is a problem with overdamming, though. Obviously, you shouldn't dam every river ever out of existence. Balance. When it comes to these 13 dams, though, I live next to a dam. So full disclosure, I am biased. I want to keep my dam. It is a recreational area. I lived here my whole life. I moved here from Grand Rapids when I was 6 years old, second grade. And so I love this river, and the dams are a part of the river and what makes it what it is. And so I don't want them to go away. And so to me, Consumers Energy saying that it's because we don't want to raise rates for people. I mean, if you know Consumers Energy, if you live here in Michigan, you know that it's a monopoly and it's corrupt as hell. And we are the ones that give them all their money. And they don't ever upgrade their facilities or their systems. We have the most outages. We have one of the highest rates in the nation for electricity and energy in general. So, and they were perfectly fine with raising rates when it comes to providing solar panels and wind turbines. But they don't want to, and I'm not saying they should raise rates. Our money should have just gone to these dams, to it's cheap energy. But again, they are getting government regulation. There's tons and tons of government regulations. And so that is the real reason that they're trying to get out of the business, is because it's not profitable because of government. Several Michigan cities this week panned the incentives proposal by the Michigan Public Service Commission staff, arguing the estimated $23 million incentive pool for DTE and the $19 million incentive pool for Consumers Energy would take additional money from customers already paying high rates to reward DTE and Consumers Energy for simply doing their jobs. Again, they say it's going to be $1.4 billion or something like that in order to fix up all of the dams, maintain, to keep the dams, the 13 of them. And it's only going to take $638 million to remove them. I don't agree, by the way. If you go look in California, it's like for just one dam to be removed was almost $500,000. So I don't agree with their numbers. It's going to be a lot more than that. I digress. Under the PCS staff, Will says that's why their motto is so perfect, a force for change. And it's good to see you, Hernandez. They plan on a huge solar farm, Lake Huron. Yep, they use Mackinac Bridge as antenna for HARP. I'm going to look into that. I do want to do a Rumble exclusive on HARP and geoengineering. Just do a whole 2-hour video to get that information out there. It's very important to understand how they're manipulating our weather. And I don't like the connections to China either, Connie. I agree. Under the PCS staff report, the performance metrics the utilities would have to meet to get the incentive cash would actually fall below the Commission's own minimum reliability standards in some cases, stakeholders argued in filing this week. Among the communities opposing the plan are Ann Arbor, Birmingham, Flint, Livonia, Kentwood, Pleasant Ridge, and Meridian Township. Ann Arbor opposes any mechanism that would give extra financial reward, bonus, incentive payment for a utility company that improves its reliability to a minimally compliant level, the city said in a Thursday filing. Right. They haven't upgraded anything in forever. This is especially true given it was DTE's own behavior and choices that caused it to deliver some of the worst reliability in the country, despite being granted the opportunity, which it exploited, to secure above average earnings. No other industry is rewarded for not meeting basic standards, and Michigan's utilities should not be the exception. Stimulus giveaways and higher electric bills pay for green energy in Michigan. This was all the way back in 2011. Why weren't they investing money in hydro? Why weren't they updating our hydro facilities? As Consumers Energy announced that its newest wind farm had cleared its first hurdle, it also touted the $29 million in property tax revenue that it is expected to provide to Mason County over the first 20 years of operation. The Mason County Planning Commission approved a special land use permit application for the $232 million Lake Winds Energy Park project last week. What was left out of the press release was that the project is expected to receive $72 million in federal tax credits from the federal stimulus program, the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act. Consumers Energy spokesman Dennis Marvin said that the $72 million in federal tax credit is expected to come over a 10-year period. Critics of wind industry projects say government subsidies, such as $72 million Lake Winds will receive, are necessary because the power source itself is too expensive. This would never be created in a free market. Lake winds and other mandated renewable power will simply make energy more expensive for everyone, said Pat Michaels. Consumers Energy expects Lake Winds to be operational by the end of 2012. 56 1.8 megawatt wind turbines will use about 9,300 acres of land. I mean, and that's another thing. The hydro, it's already there. It doesn't take acres and acres of land. This is part of that land grab, stealing it from the farmers. And again, axe Michigan property tax. Let's do this. We don't need the products. We got enough taxes already. Let's keep our land. To help pay for the higher cost of renewable energy, Consumers Energy customers pay about $2.50 monthly renewable energy surcharge that was approved by the Michigan Public Service Commission. That charge will drop to 65 cents per month in September. Yeah, what is it now, though? That is the question. New energy plan will raise prices and weaken Michigan's fragile electric system. This was just in 2022. And this is Mackinac.org, Holly Wetzel. An integrated resource plan approved yesterday by the Michigan Public Service Commission, who, by the way, has taken over the zoning for wind and solar. This is who Whitmer gave it to. Will leave Michigan residents more likely to have electricity that is less reliable and more expensive. The plan will allow Consumers Energy, a monopoly utility that provides electric and natural gas services to 6.7 million Michigan residents, to close down more of the state's reliable sources of energy. The plan allows consumers to decommission the last of its coal plants by 2025. which I think they said they're going to have it done by this year. So you could see they get plenty of bonuses, benefits, so on and so forth. This one, pandemic shutdown, pay up anyway, says utility. So when we were locked in our homes, Consumers Energy kept raping people of money. A school customer of the utility monopoly, Consumers Energy, received a take it or leave it offer this month in response to a dispute over a surprisingly high energy bill accrued, after the state issued a pandemic-related order to close its doors. The Maury Education Center, home to Maury Flex Tech High School, is supported by the Maury Foundation, a charitable nonprofit in Mount Pleasant. In March of 2020, MEC closed its doors on state orders, like all other schools, and turned down its thermostat. The school's energy consumption dropped nearly 64%, but its utility bills dropped by less than 10%. Why? Because Consumers is corrupt as hell. The reason is that Consumers, a regional monopoly, was allowed to ratchet up the rate it charged the school as a way to ensure its own revenues. Let that sink in. And these are the people they're gaslighting the people that live around this area, because they say stuff like, well, you don't want us to raise rates for everybody across the state for you people that get to enjoy Hardy Dam Pond. And it's like, Hot Boat Weekend, look up Hot Boat Weekend in YouTube. It's not just people around here that enjoy Hot Boat Weekend and enjoy the Big Muskegon River, all up and down it, not just Hardy Dam Pond, but down in Croton too. Like, yes, it does raise our property value, but why is that so evil? I don't like when they try to blame us and say, well, you want everybody to pay for what you guys enjoy. No, everybody in the state enjoys it, and they enjoy the fishing because the fishing with the bass, you need deeper water, so on and so forth. So it isn't just us that enjoy these dams and what the dams provide. The public school was ordered to close by the government. Then the school's electricity provider, granted a monopoly under state law, sent school administrators a bill as if the school had remained fully operational. The whole affair should remind people and lawmakers that utility monopolies need more competition. Yes, and government is the only thing that creates monopolies with regulations. That's why you always see Walmarts and Amazons, they love regulations. They can eat the costs, but your local store, they can't. At issue was a rate scheduled to which the school was signed up many years ago, which let the utility raise the rate it charges to customers in the event they use less electricity. You use less electricity, we can charge you more, so that way we maintain profits. Can't get more corrupt than DTE and Consumers, except for maybe you go down to Texas, right? They have a corrupt energy centralized monopoly too. That review indicated that in 2019 alone, the Maury Foundation had paid Consumers nearly $15,000 more than it should have had it had been on a lower rate. Neither Foundation nor Consumers have records for why the original higher rate was chosen. Consumers reported that its records went back only 7 years. The good news going forward is that the school is now on a better rate. The bad news is that it still had to pony up precious resources to a government-protected monopoly at a time when it was ordered to close. Eric Spindler, executive administrator of the Maury Foundation, challenged the utility's charges. He was able to win a $3,100 rebate, roughly 50% of what Spindler says the school was overcharged during the state-ordered closure. Michigan electricity rate since 2003, 15 increases in one cut. This was back in 2018. And lastly, get used to it. 2019, the wonderful world of energy rationing. Governor Whitmer and Consumers Energy used the state's emergency warning system to request that Michigan residents curtail their use of natural gas. Which, again, there's a war on natural gas now. The warning paired with DTE's request that its customers voluntarily reduce their electric use during this period of extreme cold. over on Rumble. Rock, I'm sorry if you're still here. I apologize. Good morning. I should have looked sooner over at the Rumble chat. And the mighty Human Z, question for you. Does DTE receive benefit from the new renewable energy laws because of all the subsidies they get? Were they behind this legislation? Oh, thank you for the question. I can only speculate right now, but that's a rabbit hole I would be more than willing to go down to look into. Aha, I remember that, the vortex. Yes, this is when the vortex happened in 2019, and we had to, basically reduce our natural gas use and get used to the cold. They've been trying to get us used to less and less energy usage in many ways. But again, I'm going to look at that. The renewable energy laws, I can guarantee you that is why they're going into wind and solar, getting out of hydro, is because there's no money. They're not getting any money from us any more money from us by investing in hydro. But we're giving, money out the wazoo for things that we don't even want, solar and wind. Consumers' energy is totally corrupt. They couldn't afford to keep on dams, but they think they can upkeep all these battery factories, wind and solar farms, says Brandy. Yeah, exactly. It is hypocrisy. It really is just the plan. The United Nations Agenda 2030 plan will be implemented in any way possible. And I have to reference my video. It hasn't gotten that many views on YouTube, but I talked about the migrant plan that the United Nations is implementing right now at our border, but not just our border, borders all across the West. We're having issues with illegal immigrants coming in, but they're calling them migrants, and it's part of a plan. So please check that out, because it absolutely is all-encompassing, this war that they're doing on us by pushing EVs, solar panels, migrants, what have you. It's all UN Agenda 2030. Consumers seems to be part of the hierarchy. Absolutely. Or at least they're used by Whitmer in whatever way they want to be used, or whatever way she wants to use them. Yeah. It's unfortunate. The dams, again, they're probably going to be sold to the tribes, but we shall see. State lawmakers calling Gretchen Whitmer to deploy National Guard to secure the U.S. southern border. That's not going to happen. This came out the 3rd. Now, the last couple days in the news cycle, at least alternative news, I have seen that the GOP is just as bad as the Democrats, of course, but it's being shown that they want people to come through the border just as much as the Democrats do. And why is that? Because they're globalists. They're uniparty. They are for authoritative communitarianism, which is not private property. They want the same results as the Democrats, majority of these people that call themselves Republicans. 3 Michigan Republicans are calling Democrat Governor Gretchen Whitmer to deploy the National Guard to Texas. That ain't going to happen. Whitmer, again, she's probably going to take over Biden's position in August, and Biden is full 100% out in the open about him allowing migrants in, immigrants, illegal immigrants. Here's the article I couldn't find earlier. Consumer seeks offers, ideas for 13 hydroelectric dams. And if you come down here, consumers, no, this one doesn't say it. Sorry. In one of these articles that has just come out, maybe it was in the Pioneer, they were talking about how it's money. It's because of money, when really it's not. It's government regulation. Here we go. Last thing, and then I have to go make lunch for the fam. In warning for Biden, ceasefire activists urge uncommitted vote in Michigan primary. The mighty Human Z, social housing, he sent an article over on Rumble, and I will look into that. Thank you. And just like I said, I will look into the DTE receiving benefits for renewable energy laws because of the subsidies, and them being behind the legislation. I think that is important to try to understand where that legislation trying to take, or rather they did take away the power of zoning from the county or township level, but I think it's going on the ballot. So the MTA, which is the Michigan Township Association, is trying to take that power back. We'll see if it gets on the ballot. And if Michigan Acts Michigan property tax gets on the ballot, it'll be the first time ever I vote. I will absolutely vote to take out Michigan property tax, and I will vote to make sure the power stays at the township level when it comes to rezoning for wind and solar. Those are the two things. If they're on the ballot, I'm voting for the first time in my life. Organizers, let's see. Arab American activists are organizing a last-minute campaign to urge tens of thousands of Michigan voters to cast uncommitted votes in the Democratic presidential primary on February 27th to register their discontent with President Joe Biden for not demanding Israel ceasefire action in Gaza. Now, I'm going to be honest, Whitmer doesn't win any points in this area either. She is literally hand in hand with Biden when it comes to Israel. Most of our politicians are actually pro-Israel first. They're not Michigan. They're not America first. Organizers of the Listen to Michigan campaign said they aim to activate 80% of voters who support a ceasefire in Michigan to vote uncommitted in the primary, in part by reaching out to 128,000 Arab and Muslim voters, as well as targeting other voter groups in Michigan, including African Americans and Native Americans. And my question is, who would they vote for? Because I don't think they'd vote for Whitmer. They wouldn't vote for Newsom. They're not going to vote for Biden. So who do you think would be that they would vote for? Who would they like? Voting uncommitted in the Democratic primary is our way of telling Biden we're uncommitted to his financing of genocide in Gaza, said the campaign's manager, Layla Elabed, a longtime community organizer in Dearborn and younger sister to U.S. Rep. Tlaib. I think that's how you say it. Pretty sure. Many of us have lost family and friends in Gaza due to bombs funded by Biden administration. We can't support someone who contradicts our core values of peace and human rights. So this is our way of sending a direct message to the Democratic Party to count us out. Count Michigan out. Big Mike. Charlotte says Michael Obama. Big Mike. Maybe so. And how about Big Mike as president and Whitmer as the VP? Or vice versa? I think you're right, though, that they would vote Big Mike before they would vote Whitmer. Connie says, thank you for all your incredible research and presentation. God bless you and your family. God bless you guys. I love you guys. I am so thankful. Once again, I will continue to say it, to just have people that actually want to know what's going on, to be informed so they can make good decisions. It's so crazy to me when people they want to stick their head in the sand. I just can't be that person. So thank you guys. We seek a clear commitment to permanent ceasefire and reevaluation of financial aid to Israel, ensuring the United States doesn't contribute further to the conflict or civilian casualties, Elabed told the Detroit News. Michigan will be decided in November by a few thousand votes. Elabed added, well, how do you know without election integrity? How do you know? The Biden campaign had no comment Monday on the Listen to Michigan campaign, but pointed to the president's remarks Thursday at the National Prayer Breakfast before he traveled to Metro Detroit to court union and Black voters. And that's another thing really quick. Fain, the UAW president, I have stated it before and I'll state it again. He came out in support of Biden, even though majority of the union workers are against Biden because of his EV mandates. The whole reason Fain is for Biden is because he's bought and paid for by Biden. He's been in the union for 30 years, and in March of 2023, he was put as the president of the UAW. And the reason for that position change was so that he can initiate the strikes to cover up the fact that there was going to be mass layoffs because of EV policies, not because of the strikes, because of the EV policies and the top-down government bullcrap that's coming from this administration and really the United Nations. So because of that, I'm sorry. I thought about what I was thinking about and I lost it. I hate when that happens, but thank you very much. I appreciate you guys being here. We do value and pray for the lives taken and for the families left behind, for all those who are living in the dire circumstances, innocent men, women, and children held hostage or under bombardment or displaced, not knowing where their next meal will come from or if it will come at all, Biden said. Oh, yes, union. So, yeah, sorry, I found it. Fain, he is totally a bootlicker to Biden. He is a plant. He was put in there to cover up the fact that they were going to lay off a bunch of people because of those policies, and now they can blame it on the strikers. So that is why Fain was put into that position. That's why the strikes occurred. It was to place blame on somebody other than Biden. The Listen to Michigan effort, which plans a Tuesday launch event in Dearborn, is another sign of how Biden's policies toward Israel and Gaza have alienated Arab Americans and Muslim voters, a constituency that makes up a small slice of the Michigan electorate, but could be a crucial group in the battleground state come November. Biden won Michigan in 2020, so, you know, a lot of people will say they'll probably vote Biden if Biden will, or I'm sorry, they will vote Trump if Trump will call for a ceasefire, which I absolutely think that Trump will come in and will end the wars, those wars, probably get us out of the United Nations as well. But by design, the United Nations then will come in and say, you aren't doing what we want. It's a big old plan, unfortunately. We'll see how it plays out, but perhaps these individuals will actually vote for Trump. Maybe that's the move here. If Trump will promise a ceasefire, they probably would vote for Trump. But we shall see. I think that is all I have for today. Anything that I did miss, then I will bring up next week on Monday when I do my Michigan news update. There are a couple things out of EDRA that I recommend about where we want to go, what economic development that we do want, and I will discuss that next week because I think it's important. One of the ideas that is offered up on EDRA's site is excellent. When it comes to education, we need some alternatives, right? I know a lot of people that have children that want to homeschool their kids, but they don't really know how it's done. If we had something like a Montessori school, and hopefully I'm saying that right, something like that, I think that would be really cool and helpful for women who want to get their children out of public school, or families, you know, obviously husbands and wives, what have you. If you want to get your kids out of public school, you want an alternative or some kind of understanding of how to get it done, we need to look there, and I think EDRA has a good plan. So I will discuss that next Monday. Tomorrow I am doing a Rumble exclusive, and it's going to be a variety pack, just a bunch of maybe you would call conspiratorial news, a lot of tech information. Elon Musk came out and called for carbon tax again, so I'm going to share that. So if you're into technological news, 5th generation warfare, you know, military tech and stuff, I think that's what I'm going to discuss tomorrow. So hopefully I see you guys at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Rumble tomorrow. Thank you guys for hanging out. Everybody over on Rumble, I appreciate you. I'm going to try to be better about the chat. I wish StreamYard would integrate it a little better, but alas, is what it is when you go to alternative tech, right? Michigan is blessed with many good homeschooling resources and groups already. Well, hey, you guys know my email. You can email me at michiganmuckraker@gmail.com, and I would love to get information. You know, if I gather enough, I'll do a video on how exactly you can teach your kids outside of public school. I'm totally for it. Thank you guys very much. I appreciate you. I hope to see you tomorrow. Remember, love your neighbor. Strength in numbers. We got this. It does seem bleak sometimes, but please don't ever let it get you down, because in the end, the good side will win, and all you can do is be the change you want to see in the world. So I love you guys. See you tomorrow.